The Auburn Tigers land another commitment, four-star Karmello English. What does he mean for Auburn, and what does it mean for this class moving forward?
Well, Zach, I actually just finished crushing some chicken farm, and I am freaking ready to rock and roll.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. I'd like to thank LinkedIn Jobs for being the official college football recruiting sponsor across the Locked On Podcast Network. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. Happy Charlie Tuesday to all who celebrate. And if you're listening to the show, you celebrate Charlie Tuesday in styles. We are joined by Charlie 5, Auburn message board legend. Fun news hitting while a lot of folks were barbecuing and grilling out and stuffing their face celebrating America, Charlie 5. But Karmello English becomes the fourth member of this 2023 class, another four-star, the very talented wide receiver from Central Phoenix City. Lot to like about this kid, Charlie 5.
Oh, yeah. First off, we get a kid from Phoenix City. That's big. I don't think we've gotten one since maybe Jonathan, the quarterback. I'm losing his last name. But it's been a while. Wallace, Jonathan Wallace. I think I can't remember another kid.
Is that the last one?
It may be. So good to get kids like that. And this is not just this isn't a fallback plan. This isn't a kid that can't get in it anywhere else. This is your number one target at wide receiver, a top recruit, and you go in and you get him, and he could go pretty much anywhere that he wanted. Playmaker, that's a big win. We talked about it on the show last week. We said that even though some of the recruiting outlook may not look great, you can celebrate these two commitments we just got this weekend with the kid from Montgomery. His name's
Jeremiah Cobb.
Jeremiah Cobb, the best running back in the state. And then you add this one today, Carmelo. It's big add. Now you got four commits. I mean, and at least on Rivals, they're all like right around top 150 guys. So the quantity may not be where we want it, but the quality is definitely there.
All solid four stars. All four of them, I see a clear path to playing time, potential starters in their first two seasons. All
Easily.
four of them. All four of them. Terrence Love may be the toughest just because Auburn's best at recruiting defensive backs. There's just more talent there. But still, I think he has a role as either a redshirt freshman or a true sophomore. All four of these guys. And so moving forward now, right, the reason this is so big, you mentioned Jeremiah Cobb that Auburn added on Friday. Number one running back in your state, Karmello English, the number one wide receiver for most recruiting services throughout the state of Alabama. This is good. This is really, really good. And it's on the offensive side of the ball. I think that is something that they need. I think they've shown, even though it's been a little bit slower on the defensive side, I just kind of trust that things are going to fall into place there. I trust that more because there's more proof of concept, I guess is the term I'm looking for there. But on offense, it's like, you're still kind of selling what this could be
right
over the next few years. You're selling a vision. With the defensive side of the ball, I don't know if you're necessarily selling that as much.
No, you're right. You gotta the big wins we're having early are on offense, and you would think that, like you just said, it would be the other way around. It's just good to see these. You're starting to kind of get a little bit of momentum with some of these in-state guys. We were almost. I mean, if you don't get Carmelo, you're shut out of the top 10 in the state of Alabama more than likely. I think he's right around like 8 or 9 or something like that. So he pushed back his commitment, kind of scared us a little bit. I think it was more of a logistical thing than anything. It wasn't anything that we should have been worried about. But anytime that happens, you kind of panic. But it kind of came out of the blue today.
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime you're the favorite and it gets pushed back, it's like, who's in his ear? Who's in his ear? Who's got to him? Has he got another visit coming up? But no, that was good. That was obviously a big thing. Seems like Michigan was kind of the number 2 for him. And so They've, that's a college football playoff team from last year. So fending them off, I think, is absolutely huge. And it goes back to, and we've talked about this a ton, it goes back to what Bryan Harsin's kind of his first press conference on that Christmas Eve was, you got to win the recruiting battles close to home. The guys in their backyard. A backyard, I believe, was a term that he actually used. And so far, 3 out of the 4 guys are in his backyard. Braden Joyner, Auburn, doesn't get much closer than that, obviously. Jeremiah Cobb, an hour away in Montgomery. And then, obviously, heading over to Central Phoenix City, it's 30 minutes if you drive fast enough.
Well, Terrence Love is just Fairburn. That's not that far. That's just what, hour and a half away or something like that. Yeah. So, that's kind of been his plan. Be a little bit more selective, kind of cast your net close to home, and winning some battles. So that's good stuff.
Yeah, so Carmelo, he's 5'11", 175. That's what most of the recruiting sites have him listed at. Not elite size.
No.
But he makes up for it, I think, with physicality.
So physical. I was going to say it, yes.
Yeah, John Garcia talked about that on our Recruiting Thursday last week. And he just talked about how physical and how tough Karmello English plays. And also, you just find a way to get the guy the football, and then good things happen. Extremely productive last year for the Red Devils. 70 catches for a little over 1,000 yards. You absolutely love to see that.
Love it. At high school level, that's huge.
18 receptions as well. I also love this. He got the ball 6 times, and context matters here, and I don't have it, but he got 6 rushing attempts and scored on 2 of them. So
pretty solid.
I love that as well.
To me, I know he's not quite as big, but the way, as hard as he plays, and this is one of the you kind of took the words right out of my mouth. He plays hard. He looks like kind of like a smaller Des Bryant, like reckless almost. Like he runs across the middle hard. He goes up and gets the ball hard. He runs through tackle. I mean, he is super high. He's hyper aggressive, and I kind of get like a smaller version of Des Bryant kind of feel from him. Like maybe he could play 6 foot, 200 ish, and just be a very physical across the middle, even outside receiver, or like a go up and get it, because he has a really good vertical. And some of the highlights, I mean, he just abuses kids one-on-one, and obviously that's high school competition, but you got to dominate those guys.
He's still 7A though. I mean, he's
still
the
top of the top,
highest level, right?
Yeah, and there's a lot of his highlights are not against. I mean, you'll recognize the schools when you watch his highlight film. So I'm excited. He is going to be he's going to be a really good one.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for him. The one question mark, and I think he's an inside guy at the next level. I'm curious to see how they use him, and it'll be years before we really see that, but. That's a position where like Auburn almost has exclusively slot receivers right now. But by the time he's really playing, 2 years from now, the roster is going to turn over a ton. So it doesn't really matter. But, guys like Jay Fair will still be on the roster. Guys like, Camden Brown will be expected to have taken that step by then. He's going to kind of be the piece behind them. And I think they all can be on the field at the same time. But, I mean, with the transfer portal and stuff now, the roster's going to look totally different by that point anyway. So it may not even matter.
Right. The one thing I've seen, I get that he might – as far as like penciling him as a slot guy, like we seem to be we say that we have a lot of kids that are slot guys, but like I feel like if – you can kind of use their strengths. There's guys that have different strengths. I don't see like a cookie cutter idea of what an outside receiver. I mean, maybe we want a 6'4". Maybe that's what you want.
North like 6 foot. I mean, 6'4" is probably a little extreme, but I think 6'2" is a reasonable ask. Yeah,
maybe, but like there's guys that are outside receivers. I mean, we can look up the NFL receiving leaders, and it's not just all 6'4", 6'5" dudes. Like a lot of guys. I don't know.
Do you trust Auburn's offensive scheme to use it that way? Do you trust us to be able to get our 5'10", 5'11" guys open on the perimeter?
Well, I mean, everybody else does. I mean, like, let's just
Sure.
put your best 5 out there. Put the best 5 receivers out there. Don't label dudes by their height or measurables. If they can get open,
it just hasn't happened. It just hasn't happened yet. I mean, do you remember how big of a deal it was when like Gus was finally like, all right, yep, let's put Seth Williams and Anthony Schwartz on the field at the same time. Like, let's just do it. Let's just do it. And it's like, why did this take so long? How is this that difficult to do?
Yeah, we don't have to have the right format. Like, it doesn't have to be formationally. I mean, I wouldn't think it would have to be formationally based. Like, just find your best dudes, and this guy's going to be one of them.
No question.
We may not have the twin towers out there, a bunch of 6'2", 6'3" guys, but I think we're going to have a bunch of athletes. I think the more I start thinking about this wide receiver room, it's a bunch of athletes, and then you mix in Landon King, who's listed in the program, by the way, as a wide receiver. Not tight end. So you throw in, maybe get one of those every now and then, but give me a pile of 6 foot, 180, 190 freak athletes, and I'm happy. I think
they're just annoying to cover for 40, 50 snaps a game. Just wear them out.
OBJ and Jarvis Landry guys. Give me a bunch of those.
I'm all for it. It just seems like Auburn's scheme has always been behind everyone's, and we thought that it was going to catch up last year, and I think it got closer, but still, we're all expecting that big step with Bryan Harsin kind of being the guy, right? This is his program now, and so hopefully that all takes care of itself. So Auburn lands Karmello English. They land Jeremiah Cobb this past Friday. What does that mean for the Tigers over the next few weeks on the recruiting front? We'll tell you in just a moment right here on Locked On Auburn. But as the sun comes out and small businesses are back in business, LinkedIn Jobs makes it easier to grow your team. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the people you want to interview faster and for free. You can create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond to the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. That's almost as many people as Charlie 5 knows. And obviously, this tool is why businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires in leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Did you know every week, nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That is linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Charlie 5, big news happening on the recruiting front for the Tigers. We mentioned it a second ago. Auburn landing the #1 running back in the state, the #1 wide receiver in the state. Still just 4 commits, 4 quality commits, 4 guys that have clear path to playing time in their first 2 years in this program, which you agreed a second ago. Are we feeling better? Or is this still hey, we need more than 4 dudes? It's still, even though we're still months away from the season. Where are you on this now?
I feel a little bit better. I think you've sort of got proof of concept now when you got guys like this that are committed that you can sell, that say, hey, look, these are not just a bunch of scrubs. These are like the top players in the country, and they're in the boat right now.
Right.
And they're going to be out recruiting, and that could help. On the flip side, I feel like I think Brock Glenn may commit this coming week at some point in time. Maybe that was the talk early July. I don't feel very good about Keldrick Falk, who is supposed to commit maybe, I think today, actually. It'll be sometime today or tomorrow or this week.
Okay.
Not feeling good about that. But if Brock Glenn doesn't go, if we don't get Brock Glenn, which I think it's kind of come a little bit closer back to maybe a coin flip there. But if
I don't feel good about it.
I don't feel good either. But if we get him, then you can really build momentum because you have your quarterback in the class. But if you don't, it could be a while before we see another one. But I also wonder, and we'll have to do some digging and learn a little bit more about this, but the NIL thing is about to switch over from what I understand, like the buyout or whatever from the big NIL company is about to go through. And I've talked to a few people, and they're actually a lot more excited about some guys that I would have never thought we would have had a chance with. Quay Russaw being one of them. And then I think there's a defensive tackle from Columbus, Georgia. I mean, big time guys that they think that, we can get in with, but we'll have to see. But maybe that could help pick up some momentum too, as that sort of switches over and gets going.
That'd be huge. Yeah. And, I think a lot of Auburn fans are curious to see what happens with this NIL switchover. NIL Auburn is not NIL Auburn anymore. And so what does that do for recruiting?
Because it's got to do something. I mean, you got to have it. So it's whatever people get excited about, and they want to purchase or be involved with, that's what we need to be hoping for, because that's what we're going to have to be competitive and continue to win these battles. So that whole switch over and that whole transition, that'll be interesting to watch over the next month, because there's basically a dead period. I think there's kind of a dead period between right now and the end of July. So once that's over, it's going to be rock and roll.
Yeah, I mean, you're just seeing like these national stories of Miami adding these dudes, and their quarterback that they added to Jalen Rashada.
Yeah, like $9 million.
$9 million to play there, and it's more than like a lot of the NFL quarterbacks are going to make next year. And it's like, I just don't feel like we're anywhere close to that.
No, and I don't think we want to be, and I don't think anybody's going to be that close. But there's just no way the market can. There's no way that they'll ever get their value out of that. I feel like there's just no way. And rich people didn't get rich by being stupid. So I think eventually it's sort of like the new thing right now. Let's just throw a bunch of money out there and see what happens. It'll sort of, I think it'll come back to the fold. And I honestly think that the initial structure of NIL Auburn is probably the most ideal way to do it, because you're doing it by the book. You're not doing it shady. And it's something that's a little bit more guaranteed for the kids, and versus these big, just crazy like one-offs that are just going to be impossible to continue to replicate. And who knows if they're even, I mean, maybe they'll let you follow through with it. Like, for some reason, I have a really hard time believing that kid's ever going to see $9 million. I just have a really hard time believing that's going to happen. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just have a hard time believing that's actually going to happen.
I don't know.
That's a recruiting thing.
That he does, though. I hope for his sake that he does. Then like Miami yesterday had like the top offensive tackle in the country. And it's like, well, if they're paying their starting quarterback $9 million, if I'm that kid, it's like, well, you better pay me to take care of him. You know what I mean? So it's just like, gosh, I don't know how you compete with that. All right. So there's a lot of talk right now about college football and the big picture regarding conference expansion. The USC, UCLA move from the Pac-12 to the Big Ten set the college football world on fire. But now there's talk about other schools that may want to come to the SEC. How does that impact Auburn? We'll tell you in just a moment. But betonline.net is your number one source for all of your betting needs and sports info. You can find all the latest sports developments, news, betting lines, all of the action. It's available at BetOnline, and it is your continued source for all sports wagering info, including live betting. That's big with baseball, as well as esports, scores, and more. And BetOnline remains the best spot for all of your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. Check it all out. That is BetOnline, where the game starts. Charlie 5, there's talk about Miami being interested in the SEC. There's talk about Baylor. I'm seeing it in Baylor circles, talking about their fit in the SEC. I think Clemson and FSU has come up as well. I think that's a pretty natural fit as well. So we had a similar conversation when Texas and Oklahoma came in to the conference.
Right.
Is it crazy for me to say that the bigger the SEC gets, the more it hinders Auburn?
In what aspect? I mean, I think I know where you're going with this, but I want to hear like the aspect that you think it's going to hinder Auburn. Sort of we'll get caught in the wash.
Yeah, I think so. I think especially at the timing of it all. I mean, I think we're kind of the middle class of the SEC.
Right.
And I think when you add a Clemson, I think Clemson's in the SEC. I think they're upper middle class. I think FSU will be middle class. I think Baylor will be middle class. And all of a sudden, instead of Auburn just fighting with the Mississippi schools and LSU every few seasons, and now Arkansas is pretending like they're up there for the time being, you got to add all those other schools. Oh, and also those are areas that Auburn recruits, and they can't, they can't
lose
just play the SEC card when going up against Clemson. And so I don't know if this is good for Auburn. I think it's good for college football. I don't know if it's good for the Auburn Tigers.
I think, though, the same problems that Auburn has a lot. Anytime you add more kids, we're already recruiting against these guys, and I know we do have the SEC card, but like I don't know how, like when you're going up against a Clemson or a Florida State, like how much that really weighs in. I mean, in case in point, we may lose 2 kids to FSU this week.
Right.
So I really don't know, and I think the equalizer is going to be NIL. So however aggressive Auburn is with NIL will dictate their success, no matter how many teams you add. But adding schools, like I agree that adds a bunch of middle class schools. But it also, to me, the way the scheduling would have to work, that would mean you get to play more middle class schools. So you're not it's going to be really hard to play it's going to be hard to play Texas A&M, Georgia, Alabama, LSU every single year with all these. So it's going to shake up some schedules. So maybe we'll have, a more even kill schedule versus a real top heavy, not even a top heavy, just a gauntlet of, you don't ever, you get like 2 weeks of playing like a middle team, and then you got to play, a Texas A&M or a Georgia or an Alabama or LSU. So maybe that helps sort of even out not even the playing field, but making the schedule a little bit more consistent, I guess. Who knows? It'll be fun to see. I've obviously heard the speculation. I want to ask you a question. So people talk about, like, what's the smart move for the SEC? What's the smart move for the SEC? And it's always the talk is always about markets, TV markets. And so with that being said, does it make sense to add a Clemson or a Florida State, or would it make more sense to go west, add an Arizona State or Colorado, the Denver market, or something like that? Like what do you think's best for the SEC, or what do you think helps the SEC as a whole more?
I think it's more about quality than it is where the schools are. I understand the argument, and obviously that's why the Big Ten wanted LA. They wanted USC and UCLA for the LA market. But I think, if anything, the NFL has showed us that if you put the best product that you possibly can on the field,
they'll watch it.
Make every game matter.
I agree.
All of a sudden, people watch.
I agree.
Watch. And the issue with college football, and the NFL is my love. I cover a college team, but the NFL is my love. How many times when doing this show, or when I was doing, a radio show, I would have the talking point of, there's really only like 3 games that are worth watching this week. The NFL, you don't ever get that. Ever. But all of a sudden, if you add 6 more SEC teams, or 4, if you add Miami, Clemson, FSU, and Baylor on top of Texas and Oklahoma coming in.
Yeah.
And you make it where you only have, 2 or 3 non-cons a year. All of a sudden, that schedule becomes a lot more attractive for everybody. I'm not even talking about
in all sports.
Yeah. People who are, NFL heavy, and they want to say, oh man, well, Baylor's playing Miami this weekend, or Auburn's taking on Clemson. And all of a sudden it becomes more and more interesting for everyone. And that it doesn't matter what market you're in, because people want to watch high quality football, high quality matchups, high quality.
So glad.
And a solid product.
I'm so glad you're this way, because the more I hear about people talking about we should go add in Arizona, go for the Phoenix market or the Denver. I'm just like, that's just like, why do you want to add? Like, who cares how big the market is if
Those
nobody
markets
wants to
don't
watch those
college
games? No, they don't watch
football.
college football.
Watch in the South. That is it.
Go
and then
add
you have pockets. You have Columbus, Ohio. You've got parts of Michigan, but the most of the country does not watch college football. They don't.
No, totally.
They don't. And so build up the markets that already watch college football and own
Bingo.
it. Own the ACC fans that are like, oh, okay, well, I'm following Clemson, FSU, and Miami over to the SEC. I don't care about freaking, Duke playing Wake Forest in November. Who cares?
So if you add, so no-brainers to me are FSU, Miami, and Clemson. Who's your fourth to get to
Baylor.
20?
Baylor.
What about North Carolina or Virginia Tech? Like,
I don't
just
think North Carolina would come without Duke. I just don't think they would. It's not a Texas A&M Texas.
There's not going to be an ACC. If you get those, there's not going to be. And one of these conferences is gone. I don't know if it's going to be the Pac-12 or if it's going to be the ACC, but one of these conferences is more than likely going to be.
My favorite thing about all of this is it's shown that football is the only thing that matters.
Yes.
Only thing that matters. Because my first thought was,
be careful now. We're a basketball school.
Yeah. That Jabari Smith being drafted show is like the worst performing show I've had in 3 years. Tell me we're a basketball school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
That's sad. I'm embarrassed for that.
Wild. By a lot too. By a lot.
Insane.
But the whole, like when USC and UCLA were announced that they were joining the Big Ten, I guess I'm still somewhat in college baseball mode, but it was like, so you're telling me like women's basketball and softball and baseball and volleyball and tennis, all of these non-rev sports
are going to have to
pay to like fly across the country every other weekend. That's a big deal. That's a big
huge
deal. But football makes so much money where it's all worth it. So keep that in mind. People are like, well, North Carolina or Duke would be awesome for basketball. And it's like, well, sorry, like more people go to Kentucky football games than Kentucky basketball games. Like, let's all keep that in perspective here.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm with you. Baylor would not be bad. You just then you'd have 3 Texas schools right there kind of on top of each other. I almost would. Virginia Tech would be a cool one. UNC.
That one doesn't do anything for me. Emotion. I like North Carolina more than Tech.
Yeah, North Carolina or Virginia Tech would be kind of cool. I feel like
I think I would rather have Louisville than Tech.
Louisville sucks at everything though. I don't want anything to do with it.
I just think that's more exciting. I don't know why.
Okay, I got you. Baylor would be a fun trip because that's like Waco's pretty sweet from what I understand, and that stadium's pretty sweet. But
Baylor would really benefit from that. They would get so much tourist money because people would always love to go to Baylor. No question.
Oh yeah.
My wife would go to that one just so she can hang out with Chip and Joanna Gaines.
I'm just really hoping we don't keep buying into this TV market thing and just do the right thing, do the good thing, and just go get Miami, Florida State, and Clemson, and then I really don't care who you add after that. I really do not care.
I think people were excited when Oklahoma was coming to the SEC because they're a top 6 college football program, not because the Norman market is what it is. Right.
Right. Exactly.
Austin's a little different. Texas is bigger than college football or than their football team.
You get Dallas and Houston. Yeah,
so like that's a little bit different. But yeah, you're telling me like the Oklahoma market is what it is.
It's just a different market. I mean, it's just and it's part of Texas too. It bleeds over into Texas too. So
yeah.
I don't know. It's going to be fun. It's crazy to think like what's going to be the end game here? Is it 4 conferences or is it going to be like an East and a West? Like what's going to be the end game here?
If I'm the SEC, I don't care about anybody else. And I just build it as big as I can. And we have our own championship.
Yeah.
I think that would be awesome.
Oh yeah. That might be. Yeah. And it kind of sounds like that behind the curtains, not just from an SEC perspective, but that may be the plan. Like get away from the NCAA and you just have 80 teams and 4 20-team conferences and just have your own playoff, have your own champion, have your own everything. And there's probably going to be some Power 5 schools that are going to be left out. it could be really bad for schools like Georgia Tech or a Louisville or some, those type schools. So, I don't know. It's going to be fun. It's crazy to like, so much stuff is changing. Much stuff is changing.
It's moving so quickly. And, I don't know if NIL had something to do with it. I don't know if it was a portal. I don't know if if the dam broke and it's just like, let's just do all of this now. Nothing's changed in this sport in too long. I mean, this is a sport that, like, not that long ago, there wasn't an actual national championship game.
No, they just like
voted at the end.
Yeah, they all got in a room and just voted.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
That wasn't that long ago.
No, it was not. It's not that long ago at all. Wow.
Charlie 5, how can people find you, hear you, support you, love you?
Find me on Twitter, _Charlie_5, on Auburn Live, the corner message board, the Locked On Auburn Discord every day. We get in there, we mix it up, we have fun, and then Monday, Wednesday, Friday on the Dad Bod Golf Pod.
Thank you so much, Charlie 5, Auburn message board legend, joining us. You can read all of my written work at auburndaily.com. And also, hey, if you got to this point of the video, you must have liked what you heard. Click that subscribe button. We're trying to get to 5,000 subscribers. Would mean a ton. Hey, we'll be back tomorrow right here on Locked On Auburn.